Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Canto 10, Chapter 3, from text 9 on toward text 24. It's a section in the Srimad Bhagavatam on the birth of Lord Krishna that's focusing on the prayers of Vasudeva. So I'm going to read text 9, the Sanskrit, and we can read the Sanskrit of text 10 together. Tam adbhutam Tam adbhutam balakam abhujashanam chaturbhujam shanka gadgadudayudam srivatsalaksham galashobikastubam pitambaram shanda payodasobhagam. So I don't know, we don't have phones here, so we're going to have a problem with the verse, but we can try. 10:3:10. Yeah. Mahar Vaidurya Kiritada Kundala. Maybe I'll just read the Sanskrit, yeah. Tvisha Parishvakta Sahasra Kuntalam Udama Kanchang Gada Kankana Dibir Virochanmanam Vasudeva Aikshata. So the translation: Vasudeva then saw the newborn child who had very wonderful lotus-like eyes and who bore in his 4 hands the 4 weapons, Shankha, Gada, Chakra and Padma. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, and on his neck the brilliant Kastuba gem. Dressed in yellow, his body blackish like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem Vaidurya. The child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. To support the word adbhutam, meaning wonderful, the decoration and opulences of the newborn child are fully described. As confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 530, Parhavatam sam ashitam buddha sundarangam, the hue of the Lord's beautiful form resembles the blackish color of dense clouds. Asita means blackish, and Ambuda means cloud. It is from the word Chaturbhujam that Krishna first appeared with 4 hands as Lord Vishnu. No ordinary child in human society has ever been born with 4 hands. And when is a child born with fully grown hair? The descendant of the Lord, therefore, is completely distinct from the birth of an ordinary child. The Vaidurya gem, which sometimes appears bluish, sometimes yellow, and sometimes red, is available in Vaikuntha Loka. The Lord's helmet and earrings were decorated with this particular gem. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Durubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Chewing from the remnants of the Vaishnavas. Having to give class is a gift because it forces you to read the Shastra. Sometimes we need force, and I'm one of those people, so I'm grateful. We're speaking today, the section is based on Vasudev's prayers. Yesterday, Krishna Kishore Prabhu focused on the auspicious symptoms that came about when the Lord appeared, when Krishna appeared in the cell. Today, we're focusing, he appears, and we see Vasudev's reaction. So this first verse, and we'll be going through different verses, but this first verse, we get a vision of the darshan of Krishna that Vasudev receives. The newborn child with lotus-like eyes, 4 arms bedecked with weapons, chest has the mark of the Srivatsa, the brilliant Kastuba gem around his neck, dressed in yellow, blackish body like a dense cloud, and his scattered hair fully grown. Helmet, earrings, belts, armlets, the works. He comes fully decked, Krishna, in his full regalia. And so the first word that comes, one of the words that stands out here that Prabhupada highlights is abhutam. Adbhutam means wonderful. But when we hear it here, it has tamadbhutam balakam, that wonderful child. But it also carries a little bit of the mood of shock, of astounding. Something's wonderful, like, that painting's wonderful. Means joy, but together with that joy, there's a bit of a shock. Like, whoa, what's this? And no, that's no surprise also that there's shock. Because you don't get babies with 4 hands these days, just coming around, and in each hand carrying a weapon. You also don't get, and Krishna comes with all these elements. He also comes with his Vaidurya gem. And Prabhupada says here, available in Vaikuntha Loka. I could hear an advertisement voice in the back of my head, Vaidurya gem available in Vaikuntha Loka. And it's Krishna's statement piece. When you're doing drama and you have to dress up in costume, you try for each actor to have a statement piece. Sherlock Holmes had his hat and his pipe, but we won't go into that. So Krishna has his statement piece. Like people use brand names because it's creating a certain statement. Somebody walks around with a Gucci handbag. Here Krishna, he has his Vaidurya gem because it's a statement piece. The statement is that here I am, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this statement piece, it changes color, which for pujaris is very useful. If you had gems that change color, it would be very, very useful. It also reminded me of mood rings. Of course, this is the very imitation, mundane version of it. But rings that seem to change according to the people's moods when you have them. So Krishna's gems, they're personified. They have personality. It's not surprising that they change color. It's not, and if it changed color according to Krishna's mood, that's also not surprising, because they're personal. So Krishna is coming into the material world and he's making a statement. I am here as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada is quoting the Brahma Samhita, the prayers that we read, that we sing every day when the Lord reveals himself at the darshan at 7, And in that prayer, Prabhupada is highlighting that Krishna is coming as a dense, darkish cloud. The words are Asita Amboda. And we see that this color of Krishna is emphasized. The color of Krishna is said to be Sham. And it's not just an ordinary color, it's a color that you can perceive, especially in India during the monsoon. But before the monsoon comes in the summer, just after the summer season. And when the sky is bright, bright blue and the sun is strikingly hot, and then the monsoon clouds gather. So these are darkish clouds, but they're on a bluish sky, and there's a bright, brilliant sun behind them. So this color that comes about, the blue, the brightness, the darkish cloud, that color is Sham. And so when we're reading through these verses of the Bhagavatam, when we're reading about Vasudev's darshan of Krishna, we read it prayerfully. Because there's a word in Latin and I must get the pronunciation right. It's called lectio divina, to read prayerfully. And so when we read these texts, we can also pray. We can pray to Vasudev that one day may that color of Krishna and the darshan of Krishna capture our eyes just as he is now adbhutam, in wonder and astonishment. Because how many times we come in front of Radha Radhanas and it's like, Govindam, like my spiritual master would say, Govindam Adi Purusham, what will be for breakfast today? So many times we come in front of Radha Radhanath and we're not seeing. We're not seeing. We come in front of, we chant the holy names and we're not hearing, at least for myself, we're not hearing the name with all its glory that it can be for us. So we can pray to Vasudev that our eyes will be astounded with shock as he was in seeing Krishna. So the next text and these following texts, I'm not doing the Sanskrit because there's a lot of text and I'm just going to try and get for the essence. When Vasudev saw this extraordinary sun, his eyes were struck with wonder. In transcendental jubilation, he mentally collected 10,000 cows and distributed them amongst the Brahmanas as a transcendental festival. Now, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, and I'm going to read sections of the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has analyzed the wonder of Vasudev upon seeing this extraordinary child. And he describes the wonder. He says, the first wonder was that the Lord was not afraid to appear in the prison house of Kamsa, where Vasudev and Devaki were interned. The second wonder, although the Lord, the supreme transcendence, is all-pervading, he had appeared in the womb of Devaki. The third wonder was that the child would take birth from the womb so nicely decorated. And fourth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was Vasudev's worshipable deity, yet he had taken birth as his son. And for all these reasons, Vasudev was transcendentally jubilant, and he wanted to perform a festival, as Kshatriyas do, to celebrate the birth of a child. But because he was imprisoned and he was unable to do so externally, therefore he performed the festival within his mind. And that was just as good. If one cannot externally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can serve the Lord within one's mind. And since the activities of the mind are as good as those of the other senses, this is called a non-dual absolute situation, Advaya Jnana. In Kali Yuga, it's said we have two benedictions. One is that the offenses that we create, and they're generally numerous, the ones that occur in the mind we're not taxed for. If we physically harm somebody, if we speak out of turn, those things we're taxed for. But what was in the mind, we generally in Kali Yuga not taxed for. Narayani Mataji was saying that maybe when you're staying in Vrindavan, though, you could get taxed for those thoughts. And since the temple is Vrindavan, you have to be careful of your thoughts. But the other thing is that in Kali Yuga, and when Krishna appears, it's also signifying the beginning of Kali Yuga, is that in Kali Yuga, what you offer in your mind, the service that you do in your mind, you also get the benefit for. So this is the special privilege of Kali Yuga Bhaktas. But, so we see here Vasudev. We see how Vasudev, his eyes were struck with wonder. Now I was thinking that wonder is experienced in the mind. We hear something amazing and our mind is amazed. We see something amazing and our mind is amazed. But Vasudev's eyes were struck with wonder. Because even the senses are becoming enlivened. The senses themselves are becoming enlivened by the presence of Krishna. And we also see the effect that it's having, that seeing Krishna is enlivening the mind and the senses of Vasudev. But also seeing Krishna is having an effect on Vasudev's heart. And what is the effect on Vasudev's heart? But that just by seeing Krishna, he has the impetus to want to carry out this festival in his mind. He wants to, his heart has become both simultaneously soft and joyous, and by seeing Krishna, he immediately wants to give. He wants to give in charity. And what does he want to give? He wants to give the best thing. Cows, because they're dear to Krishna. And to the best people, the Brahmanas, because they're dear to Krishna. And so, therefore, it's really interesting that this is what the darshan of Krishna should evoke in our hearts. The darshan of Krishna needs to invoke in our hearts the impetus to give. And that's the completion of the Sankirtan movement. That in order to be instruments of Lord Chaitanya, we have to imbibe Krishna consciousness. You can't give what you don't have. And when you've imbibed that Krishna consciousness and there's a fullness there, naturally, like Vasudev's enthusiasm, I want to host a festival. I want to give cows to many brahmanas. But I can't. I'm in this jail. So in my mind, I'll give. And so therefore this mood of charity, but not just giving like, okay, we're at the temple, let's put something in the undi, which is all wonderful. Every bit of it is wonderful. But also this to give the best thing. And who's the best people? I was remembering what His Holiness Parthasarathi Maharaj said on Balaram Purnima, which I don't remember hearing before, but it's in the Bhagavad Gita, is that anyone who comes to Krishna consciousness for any purpose is a Mahatma. I was like, whoa, that's quite a definition. And so here we see that if we give the best thing, which is Krishna consciousness, to the best people who have the potential to be Mahatmas. So if we are deeply drinking in Krishna consciousness, naturally, the desire to share it must be there. And if we don't feel this desire, then we have to check out darshan. We have to check out darshan, not with the actual image, but with our eyes, and whether it's reaching our hearts. So we can pray also here to Vasudev that may our hearts also, when we stand in front of Radharani, be so filled with that darshan that the impetus to want to give is naturally flowing. So, the 12 text also is giving us the reaction of Vasudev. In text 11 and 12, we see Vasudev's reaction. And it says, O Maharaj Parikshit, O descendant of King Bharata, Vasudev could understand that this child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. Having concluded this without a doubt, he became fearless, bowing down with folded hands. And concentrating his attention, he began to offer prayers to the child who illuminated his birthplace by his natural influence. So here Vasudev's reaction is further explained. It's further that not just was his eyes struck with wonder, that his heart had become soft, but for one, Vasudev could see, and it comes in the purport, that there was fearlessness. By understanding Krishna, there was then fearlessness in Vasudev's mind. And when you read the verse, it sounds like he began to offer prayers to the child who illuminated his birthplace. Jai Shri Shri Radharanath ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki Jai, Jai Shri Prabhupada. It says, he who illuminate, it is. Bowing down with folded hands and concentrating his attention, he began to offer praise to the child who illuminated his birthplace by his natural influence. Now when I read it, I thought, okay, Krishna illuminated the cell by his natural effulgence. That's what I thought. But the purport goes deeper. The purport allows us to see that Krishna didn't just by his effulgence illuminate the cell. Krishna's natural influence was allowing Vasudev his fearlessness. Krishna's natural influence was allowing Vasudev this understanding of himself. Because the difference is that with Vasudev, he was seeing Krishna's greatness and simultaneously seeing Krishna's personhood, his relationship to him. In the previous verse, when we're describing the wonder that which he experienced when he receives Krishna, he's like, wow, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But wow, you're also my son. So simultaneously, Vasudev is experiencing the greatness. He knows Krishna is amazing. He knows Krishna is supreme. And he's experiencing Krishna's closeness, the sweetness, that, but you're chosen to come as my son. And so in that, with the influence of Krishna, he's able to, the fear of Kamsa leaves him. Abhay Charanaravinda, one who is fearless at the lotus feet of Krishna. He becomes fearless in the vision of Krishna. And that fearlessness comes because he has full understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is Krishna's influence. All around us now in the social media age, we're looking for influences. People's opinions are shifted. What to buy, what not to buy, what to wear, what not to wear, what to do, what not to do, which places to go. How many times a day even do you think of something and you're like, can you Google that? It's like so much of our world is influenced by the social paradigm, and especially within media, there's this thing called influencers. And influencers are amazing people because they can come from zero, they have nothing, no background, no qualification, nothing. They can put one video, get 10 million views and become instantaneously famous. That is one thing that's available in Kali Yuga. You can become instantly famous. And they're considered influencers. Why? Because they're influencing the thoughts of people. But this Janmashtami, let us turn to the supreme influencer. Because Krishna, by his influence, we can become fearless. And that fearlessness comes when we thoroughly understand him. So Vasudev, we're able to see that when we see that Vasudev, within his mind is hosting this festival and giving in charity, we understand that really, really, in essence, there can be no impediment to devotional service. And the scriptures are telling us that there is no material impediment to devotional service. But the mind kind of rejects that. Because what about when I'm sick? What about when I'm older? What about when I'm emotionally disturbed? What about when the devotees may treat me badly? What about when the political climate is not favorable? What about when I'm not living near a temple? And by the actions of Vasudeva, we see that in all these situations, the opportunity to serve is still there. The question is whether we will take it, or whether we will see that sometimes we want the opportunity to serve how we want to serve. But if the elements are not there, then it's like, then I can't do that service the way I want to do it, so then why should I? But the truth is, everybody has their mind and everybody can offer in their mind, so there's no impediment to or situation that you can say that I'm not allowed to serve now. Because there's Vasudeva and Devaki, and they're in a cell. And they're able to perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they're able to worship Him, even with offer worship even in their minds. And in this verse, when we read how Krishna is becoming fearlessness, we see in the purport, the Prabhupada mentions that Vasudeva is now free from doubt. And there's a link between doubt and fear. When there is doubt, there is fear. And the removal of doubt brings fearlessness, because in Krishna's presence, doubt is removed. And not only do we see that Vasudeva, his reaction to Krishna is that he's now, under Krishna's influence and in the fearlessness, he is now humble. He's bowing down, and he's with full concentration is going to offer prayers. So he's offering Krishna his humility and his attention. These two things are also part of Vasudeva's offering. Gatabi, fear disappeared. So we pray to both Vasudeva and Vasudev, Krishna and his father, that this Janmashtami we may become a little bit more fearless, that we may become a little bit more faithful, because where there's faith, doubt is the antithesis, that we may also be amazed by Krishna, and to let that amazement of Krishna bring understanding of Him into our hearts. In the next text, we start hearing Vasudeva's prayers. And this is now text 13. And I just want to say that Vasudeva's prayers are 11 texts long and 20 pages. So we'll all be here till midday. But don't want to do that to you. So I'll read essential parts from not that everything is essential. I'll read selected parts from the text and the purport. So Vasudeva is saying, "My Lord, you are the Supreme Person beyond material existence, and you are the Super Soul. Your form can be perceived by transcendental knowledge, by which you can be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I now understand your position perfectly." Within Vasudeva's heart, this is the purport, affection for his son and knowledge of the Supreme Lord's transcendental nature both awakened. In the beginning, Vasudeva thought, such a beautiful child has been born, but now Kamsa will come and kill him. But when he understood that this was not an ordinary child, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that this was not an ordinary regarding his son as the Supreme Lord, but when he understood that this was not an ordinary child, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became fearless regarding his son as a Supreme Lord. Wonderful in everything, he began offering prayers appropriate for the Supreme Lord. Completely free from fear of Kamsa's atrocities, he accepted the child simultaneously as an object of affection and as an object of worship by prayer. Oh, I like the background music. Huh? Oh, it's the tent, yeah. Okay, right. Okay. So we see here, as the text goes on, Vasudeva says, "My Lord, you are the same person who in the beginning created this material world by his personal external energy. And after the creation of this world of the three gunas, you appear to have entered in it, although you in fact have not." Now in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Vasudeva begot the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet he was in full knowledge of how the Supreme Lord appears and disappears. He was therefore Tattvadarshi, a seer of the truth. So Prabhupada is indicating here that Vasudeva had this knowledge already. He could see, he knew that Krishna was going to appear. He knew how Krishna was going to appear. And therefore when Krishna appeared, he was in full knowledge of that. And then in text 15 and 17, the Mahatattva, the total material energy, is undivided, but because of the material modes of nature, it appears to separate into earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Because of the living entity, Jiva Bhuta, these separated energies combine to make the cosmic manifestation visible. But in fact, before the creation of the cosmos, the total energy is already present. Therefore, the total material energy never actually enters the creation. Similarly, although you are perceived by our senses because of your presence, you cannot be perceived by the senses nor experienced by the mind or words. With our senses, we can perceive some things, but not everything. For example, we can use our eyes to see but not to taste. Consequently, you are beyond the perception of the senses. Although in touch with the modes of material nature, you are unaffected by them. You are the prime factor in everything. You are all-pervading, undivided supersoul. For you, therefore, there is no external or internal. You never entered the womb of Devaki. Rather, you existed there already. Now you have to be in amazement of Vasudeva. Like, you're in the cell, the child appears, he's got 4 arms, all regalia, and suddenly, he's elucidating these clear, shastric, philosophical prayers. And I'm just like, I don't know if I saw Krishna, I could have that reaction, enunciate all these technical philosophy, But one thing that sticks out to me here is that Krishna cannot be experienced by the mind and the senses. So what does that mean? Because we can't stand in front of the deities and see Krishna. We do hear the holy names, and we know that's also Krishna. The thing is, it's Guyam. It's a secret. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, we know that there's the chapter that's called the most confidential knowledge. And yet we distribute Bhagavad Gitas widely. It's like if you have a secret, you don't put it in the newspaper. Well, you could, because nobody reads the newspapers anymore. But so Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's name, form, Krishna revealing himself is a secret, because you can have the book and it doesn't mean you'll understand it. And you can see the Lord and it doesn't mean that you're actually seeing him. We have the mercy of having the contact with the sacred Shastra and the deities. But there's a lock on it, there's a padlock, there's a combination lock, and that requires the self of love. The Brahma Samhita is telling us, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena, that unless our eyes are tinged with the self of love, we can read the chapter again and again. We can come in front of Radhanaths again and again, and we will see Krishna, but we won't fully see Krishna. So it is said in this chapter that Krishna, in this purport, how Krishna needs to be revealed. Only one who is engaged in pure devotional service under proper guidance, only to one who is engaged in pure devotional service under proper guidance is he, Krishna, revealed. So following the process, but not just following the process under the guidance of the pure devotees, that's the only way that Krishna can become revealed to us. That's the combination lock. And also this last line really stood out to me. For you, therefore, there is no external or internal. You have never entered the womb of Devaki. You existed there already. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Vasudev said, "My dear Lord, it is not wonderful that you appeared in the womb of Devaki, for the creation was also made in that way. You were lying in the causal ocean as Mahavishnu, and by your breathing, innumerable universes came into existence. And then you entered into each of the universes as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. And then within that universe, you expanded as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu and entered into each living being. So, and even then, you entered in between the atoms. Therefore, your entrance into the womb of Devaki is understandable in the same way. You appear to have entered, but you are simultaneously all-pervading." So Vasudeva is able to say, this is not so wonderful. There's Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean. From his breathing, universes are emanating from his pores. Within each universe, he expands, to the bottom of each universe. And then in each universe, there's millions of living entities, billions of living entities, And and then as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, Krishna expands into the heart of all these living entities, So if you can be sitting in my heart as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, why can't you be in Devaki's womb? It's not so wonderful, he says. After getting astounded and shocked, it's not so wonderful, Vasudeva says. So, in the 18th verse, Vasudeva's prayer continues. One who considers his visible body, which is a product of the three modes of nature, to be independent of the soul, is unaware of the basis of existence, and therefore he is a rascal. Those who are learned have rejected this conclusion, because one can understand through full discussion that with no basis in the soul, the visible body and senses would be insubstantial. Nonetheless, although his condition has been rejected, a foolish person considers this a reality. In essence, this verse means that one who considers that the body is not empowered by the soul is a rascal. Now, when you look at the word for word, the word is abuddha, which basically means a lack of intelligence. But when Sri Prabhupada uses the word rascal, it's like personal. It's got this connotation like, take responsibility for it. Rascal. A lack of intelligence, you'll say, okay, DNA, But rascal means that we have to take responsibility for our ignorance. It is up to us to actually take responsibility for our ignorance and come into understanding. The other thing that comes out in this purport is a very fresh, because often you hear, you're not this body, you're a spirit soul. This is the basic foundation of the Bhagavad Gita, of the philosophy that Srila Prabhupada has given us. But in this purport, there's a very fresh way in which Srila Prabhupada explains it. Again, there are those who reject the body, regarding it as insubstantial. They are in the same category of fools. One can neither reject the body nor accept it as substantial. The substance is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and both body and soul are the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I found this interesting, because not only is the soul spiritual, but the body is also part of Krishna's energy. And the foolish thing to do is to reject the body or to accept it as the only substance. Both is considered rascal. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada elaborates a little bit more on that point. The body, therefore, has a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as the soul does. I was thinking, I never heard this before. And it's here in Srila Prabhupada's purports. The body, therefore, has a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as the soul does. Since both of them are energies of the Lord, neither of them is false, because they come from reality. And one who does not know the secret of life is described as abuddha. Both of these pitfalls, the rejection of the body as false and the acceptance of the body as all in all can be avoided when one is fully situated in Krishna consciousness. So it's about the pendulum, and generally when you get a little bit of philosophy and you just step into Krishna consciousness, it's like, this is it, I know. But it takes a long time for the pendulum to stop moving from attraction and aversion, to find its basis. And Prabhupada is saying here that both these are pitfalls, to reject the body or to accept the body as all in all. Both these things are an improper understanding. So in text 19, Vasudeva carries on. O my Lord, learned Vedic scholars conclude that the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the entire cosmic manifestation are performed by you, who are free from endeavor, unaffected by the modes of material nature and changes in your spiritual situation. There are no contradictions in you. You who are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Para Brahman, because you are the three modes of material nature, and under your control, everything takes place automatically. My Lord, your form is transcendental to the three modes. Yet for the maintenance of the three worlds, you assume the white color of Vishnu in goodness for creation, and for creation, which is surrounded by the quality of passion, you appear reddish. And at the end, when there's a need for annihilation, which is surrounded by ignorance, you appear blackish. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the colors is not associated with the mode. Krishna's blackish, we don't think he's ignorance. But it's to insinuate the goodness, passion, and ignorance, which have a certain nature. Red has a nature of passion, white has a nature of purity, maintenance, and black has a nature of destruction. Okay, we're almost there. Hold on. I know hearing is not the easiest thing. O my Lord, proprietor of all creation, you have now appeared in my house desiring to protect this world. I am sure that you will kill the armies that are moving all over the world under the leadership of politicians who are dressed as Kshatriya rulers but are factually demons. They must be killed by you for the protection of the innocent public. And this is a very interesting verse, because this verse is prophesizing the Mahabharata war. We know that later, as Krishna is born, goes and he has his Vrindavan pastimes, he comes back to Dwarka, Arjuna, the war, the demons, and then, you get the whole Mahabharata war and the speaking of Bhagavad Gita. So here at his birth, because we know that Vasudeva is Tattvadarshi, he sees the truth, he knows the truth. So therefore Vasudeva is now, in this verse, in some sense, predicting that this is what you're going to do, Krishna. And why did the Mahabharata war come across? Because there was such a rise in unworthy leaders, and so much of undue violence, that Krishna wanted to rid the world of this influence, and therefore the war had to happen, and therefore millions and millions of soldiers were killed. And here is Vasudeva at his birth, giving this harbinger that this will happen. So he's prophesizing. In the last two verses of Vasudeva's prayers, O my Lord, Lord of the demigods, after hearing the prophecy that you would take birth in our home and kill him, this uncivilized excuse me. I don't have my book. This uncivilized Kamsa killed so many of your elder brothers. As soon as he hears from his lieutenants that you have appeared, he will immediately come with weapons to kill you. Now it's incredible, because here all this while Vasudeva is in knowledge. He's Tattvadarshi, he can see everything. He sees that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He can see that it's not a wonder that you're in Vasudeva's, in Devaki's womb. Suddenly, but Kamsa is going to come and kill you. So it's contradictory, because within Vasudeva is both this knowledge of Krishna's greatness and the sweetness that Krishna is my son. And in the last verse, Sukadev Goswami continued, therefore, after seeing that her child, had all the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Devaki, who was very much afraid of Kamsa and unusually astonished, began to offer prayers to the Lord. So this is now leading into tomorrow's verse, which section, which is Devaki's prayers. So I'm going to end with this one point because something very amazing comes out in the purport of these two verses, where we see Srila Prabhupada's mood. We see Srila Prabhupada and how... anyway, let me read it to you, then it will make sense. Krishna appears in this world for two purposes. Parichanaya sadhanam vinashraya cha duskritam, to protect the innocent religious devotees of the Lord and to annihilate all the uneducated, uncultured asuras who are unnecessarily barking like dogs and fight among themselves for political power. You can see Prabhupada's got a vendetta. He wants to put something down. It is said, Kali Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. The Hare Krishna movement is also an incarnation of Krishna in the form of the holy name, Nama Rupa. I thought that was a very powerful statement. Every one of us who is actually afraid of the Asuric rulers and politicians must welcome this incarnation of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then we will surely be protected from the harassment of Asuric rulers. At the present moment, these rulers are so powerful that by hook or by crook they capture the highest posts in government and harass countless numbers of people on the plea of national security or some emergency. Then again, one asura defeats another asura, but the public continues to suffer. Therefore, the entire world is in a precarious condition, and the only hope is this Hare Krishna movement. Lord Nrsingadev appeared when Prahlad was excessively harassed by his Asuric father. Because of such Asuric fathers, that is, the ruling politicians, it is very difficult to press forward the Hare Krishna movement. But because Krishna has now appeared in his holy name, through this movement, we can hope that these Asuric fathers will be annihilated by the kingdom of God established all over the world. The entire world is now full of many Asuras in the guise of politicians, gurus, sadhus, yogis, and incarnations. And they are misleading the general public away from Krishna consciousness, which can offer true benefit to human society. So this is the point. The Hare Prabhupada says here very profoundly, the Hare Krishna movement is an incarnation of Krishna because of Krishna being the incarnation of because of the holy name himself being the form of Krishna. And similarly, we were looking at the contrasting feelings of Vasudeva between seeing Krishna's greatness and seeing Krishna's sweetness. Srila Prabhupada also expresses similar feelings towards the end of this purport. As Kamsa was not expected to kill the beautiful child of Devaki and Vasudeva, the uncivilized society, although unhappy about the advancement of Krishna consciousness movement, cannot be expected to stop it. Yet we must face many difficulties in many different ways. Although Krishna cannot be killed, Vasudeva, as the father of Krishna, was trembling because in affection he thought that Kamsa would immediately come and kill his son. Similarly, although the Krishna conscious movement and Krishna are not different and no asuras can check it, we are afraid that at any moment the asuras can stop this movement in any part of the world. And this shows Srila Prabhupada's sweetness and his investment in the movement as a whole. That while he knew that Krishna will take charge of everything, he was still afraid, concerned for every temple and every devotee and every instance that was happening. And I think these last two verses are very profound, especially considering the political climate that we're in currently in the world. And everything that's happening, you may have heard of Bangladesh, may have heard of the Palestine-Israeli wars. And in these situations, there are many devotees that are not having, that may have a very challenging Janmashtami. Because there's a lot that are going on that's really being harmful to many devotees around the world in terms of the political climate. And so maybe that's one thing to consider on Janmashtami also, a prayer to these devotees, to be able to pray for these devotees, so that Krishna may also appear to them in the form of the holy name and give them the shelter that we are looking for. So I'm going to stop here. It's 8:30. If there's a comment or one question, we can have it very quickly. Otherwise, we can move over. Great. Thank you so much for being patient in hearing. Grajaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.